Yo, what is up? You are looking at the Astron Rex 105 that is fully rendered and textured. This has just been updated in the test server, and no less than 7 changes have been made to this tank. So today we are going to give you a preview of this tank, and most probably this second iteration is going to be the final iteration before this thing goes into the live server. That is the feeling that I'm getting about this tank, because I think we are getting closer and closer to the patch update, and I think this tank is going to be released together with the patch update. So you are looking at a fully textured, fully rendered Astron Rex Tier 8 American Premium medium tank with no less than 7 changes made. This is the second iteration into the super test. Of course, we'll go through all the stats one by one. Ignore the stats that you see on the right. This is an old picture of it in the garage, not textured, not fully rendered out yet, but we have the stats for you, and let's get straight into it. The changes that are going to come with this tank. This tank is a premium tank with 1250 hit points, which is actually pretty low. Now, if you compare this to other premium medium tanks, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have much higher hit points than this. I think 1300 would be on the low side. This is 1250, so significantly lower. For example, Type 59 is 1300 hit points, 122 TM 59 pattern. FV4202 is all 1400 hit points, so much lower hit points. They have made some changes. The engine power now is 450 horsepower. It was 420 horsepower blazed before this, and in the second iteration, and I think this will be the final buff of this tank. 450 horsepower, the weight 31 tons, which makes it kind of light for a medium tank, but the power to weight ratio is 14.52, a bit higher than what it was. It was supposed to be 13.55. They upped it to 14.52. But here's the real issue with it. Even though it's got, even though it's a small tank, it's a really tiny tank. It's got very low horsepower and very low power to weight ratio. For comparisons, I'm going to compare this. The closest thing that I could find was a 59 pattern, which has 520 horsepower and also the 14.30 power to weight ratio. So you are looking at well, the pattern is slightly heavier than this tank. This tank is 31 tons. Pattern is 36 tons. But I am looking at the Astron Rex as a sluggish, slow, medium tank. Now, this tank is all turret. Just take a look at the size of the turret. It is a huge turret on a very small body, perhaps the size of a T-171 light tank. If you look at it compared, next to the Mutant, it is a really tiny, small, short tank. This tank, the turret is almost as big as the body, but unfortunately it's got very low horsepower and very low power to weight ratio, which in my opinion means the speed of this tank is going to be well, not the speed, I mean in terms of mobility, this tank is going to behave a lot more like a 122 TM or a 59 pattern or a Revel or Risei. The maximum speed of this tank has been upped from 45 kilometers an hour to 52 kilometers an hour going forward, which means it is pretty not bad. The speed is not bad. It's a top speed of a 122 TM or a FV4202. And it has a very quick reverse speed. Reverse speed is 30 kilometers an hour going backwards, which means this is going to be quite fast if you want to go backwards. But the unfortunate thing is, again, the power to weight ratio is what's going to dictate how fast this tank is, and it is not very fast. So even though it has 52 kilometers an hour forward speed and 30 in reverse, it doesn't mean it is going to get there very quickly, because the power to weight ratio is very low, 14.52. Expect it to behave like a 59 pattern or a 122 TM or a Revelorise. But what does it have that is going to make it good? Well, here are the good things. The rotation speed of the gun, the rotation speed of the turret, the rotation speed of the hull makes it a little bit agile. The swing speed, rotation speed of the gun, 62 degrees, 63 degrees, really fast turning gun. The hull rotation speed is 45.89 degrees, which also makes it quite nimble. Again, this is not a fast tank, but it is a nimble, which means you can turn the tank fairly quickly. You can turn the turret fairly quickly. It is quite nimble that way. View range is 380 meters, which is pretty standard. What else is good about this tank? Well, the hull armor isn't one of it. Hull armor only 85 millimeters frontally, which means it's not really great. But what does it have working for it is the turret armor. The frontal turret armor is 220 millimeters. This has not changed, but 220 millimeters. Let's put it in context. The Type 59 frontal armor of the turret is 230 millimeters. So just slightly worse than a Type 59 frontal turret. And remember, this turret is slightly sloped. I think it's a little bit more sloped than a Type 59. But however, you have to bear in mind, it does have a little tumor on top of its turret here. The machine gun on top, it's quite huge. I think this will be its weak spot, even though the turret armor is pretty good, and it 220 millimeters plus there's an angle. It's going to bounce a lot of stuff, but look at that little tumor here, which is the machine gun port on the cupola. This is definitely going to be some kind of weak spot, so expect that to be a weak spot. Now, also the other thing that is of course special about this tank is that it is an auto loader, 5 shell magazine with 4.5 seconds intra clip. This tank does 320 damage per shot. This is incredible. 320 times 5, that's around 1600 something damage per clip, right? So 5 shots, 320 damage each shot, but 4.5 seconds in between each shots, which means very slow intra clip. Don't expect to shoot all 5 shots at one go. I expect you to be able to trade 2 for 1 when you're fighting other medium tanks. For every 1 shot you take, you can fire 2 because it has a 4.5 seconds reload time. So that is the good thing that it has going for it. But don't play this tank as a bad chat or a clip tank. Don't expect it to fire all 5 shots and then run away. This is not how this tank is going to be working. You're going to be firing 1 or 2 shots, go back into cover, fire 1 or 2 shots, go back into cover. Play it like a regular medium tank with 4.5 seconds reload time. Now the full reload time is not too bad either. Well, it's not the greatest, but it's 36.22 seconds. I suppose you can get it down to about 34 seconds if you have Vans or you have BIA skills. If you're running food, that's not too bad. The downside of the gun is the dispersion. 0.41 dispersion means this is got like a heavy tank kind of accuracy. 0.41 dispersion is like shooting all over the place even when you're fully aimed. That's the problem with this tank. You're gonna need to run vertical stabilizers. You definitely, you know, maybe even run improved aim, bounty improved aim if you can. That would help to bring your dispersion down to maybe 0.38. That would make this tank a little more playable, because 0.41 dispersion is really terrible dispersion. That would make the accuracy really bad for long distances. It would be okay for medium to close distances, but for long distances it's going to be really bad. Aim time is not too bad, 1.92 seconds. The other special thing, and the last special thing about this tank, is it has 10 degrees gun depression. Improved from the 9 degrees gun depression in the first iteration. It has now 10 degrees of gun depression. So if you work that gun depression together with the angled slope of the frontal 220 millimeters of armor, 10 degrees of gun depression, this is going to be a ridge line killer. This is going to be a really good tank fighting on the ridge line. Plus, it's kind of like small, low profile tank. So even if you have a huge tumor here on top of your head, it might be quite difficult to hit, because this tank is already kind of like a pancake already to begin with. So those are the main changes of this tank. The last 3 changes that I have for you about this tank is the shell velocity. They have increased the shell velocity of this tank. Standard AP shells 872 meters per second. They have upped it to 945 meters per second. So you are getting you know, kind of decent, not the fastest, but decent shell velocity. It's going to be pretty good. The APCR or the premium APCR shells are from 1075. They've upped it to 1181. This makes a significant difference. It'll improve the performance of this tank, and I think it does deserve it a little bit. The HE shells also upgraded from 872 to 945 meters per second. So the HE shells are not bad speed as well, almost like a normal AP shell, so that's pretty good. The concealment or the camouflage value of this tank, 12.26 stationary. Of course, this is a medium tank. As soon as you move, that camo is going to break, but this means you can get about 25% camo rating on this tank if you have all the camo skills, camo paint and whatnot. This thing will be a pretty good ridgeline, medium range, close to medium range ridgeline fighter, kind of low profile tank with great turret armor that can bounce stuff. So this tank is looking to be quite interesting and quite good. Even the textures after it's been rendered out, it actually looks pretty good. I kind of like the way it looks. It's kind of funky. I am looking forward to this tank, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.